Hi, it's me, Daphne, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to do something a little fun, but a little torturous at the same time. I'm gonna be reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. We'll see what I think about these opinions. Obviously, I'm not gonna agree with them, but we'll see if they have any validity to them. And I'm excited to see what kind of reactions they might get out of me. So the first book I have is Lord of the Flies. I absolutely love this book. I read it in high school and it really made an impact on me, and then I read it again as an adult and still really loved it. Wow, this person wrote a lot. They said, I read this book a long time ago, long enough to where I barely remember it, picked it up again, and they wish they hadn't. Okay, that's fine. There's a reason why they teach it in middle school. In order to enjoy this book, one's intellectual cognizance must be that of a child. I'm sorry. I'm like so shocked I can't even read the words. You're basically saying to enjoy the book, you need to be a child. I don't think this book is targeting only children. There's a lot of dark content in the book. Because there are also adults that read middle grade books and still enjoy them. And like you can get bigger messages from a book that is targeted at middle grade people. I don't know. That just seems rude. Offended. See, I would have cared a bit more about the little island society of boys and their descent into barbarianism if, any of the characters had been developed at all. Instead, we're thrown interchangeable names of interchangeable boys who are only developed enough to conform to the basic archetypes Golding requires to hobble this little story along. The leader, the rebel, the fat kid, the nose picker, etc. Yeah, sure, but not all books are created in the same way. Not all stories are told in the same way. Sometimes you just need your players to convey your message. It's not that deep with each individual boy. And also the book is super short. And also it's had a very lasting impact on society for many, many years. I'm not saying that every character is super developed as an individual, but I don't think that's necessary to still create the impact that it did. Okay, she'll give him some credit saying he could have been a good screenwriter for reality TV. I think you're wrong. She says there's no plot, and the prose, she doesn't like the prose. You know what? I just think this person didn't get it. You don't have to like every classic. It just wasn't for her, and that's okay, but I think you're being kind of rude. But also sometimes when I don't like books, I'm rude as well. So, okay, we'll just let it go. This person said, I absolutely hated this book. That's my overriding memory of it. I'm afraid I had to read it in secondary school when I was about 12 and never remember disliking a book so much, which was surprising as I was a voracious reader. I just remember having absolutely nothing in common with the characters. Group of English upper middle class schoolboys where she's a Scottish working class girl. Okay, I mean, you're closer to England than I am as an American girl who read this. I just could not relate to the story at all and just wished they would all kill each other as soon as possible so the book would finish. You don't have to relate to your characters to enjoy the story. Sure, sometimes it's nice to relate to the character, but that's not a requirement. And I think even not relating to the character can be a good exercise in empathy and understanding just in general. I mean, not necessarily in this particular book, but just overall, you're gonna see different types of people in the world and you're gonna come across different types of characters in the world. They're not always gonna be like you. It would be kind of alarming to assume that every character you're gonna read needs to be similar to your life experience. There are so many different life experiences to be had. It's impossible. Then she's just complaining that she felt like they had to read the book slowly in school. Okay, just whatever. This person said, rating 1 of 5 for clanking, clunking prose. Don't really know what that means. It's a question of taste. That's fine. I'm not fond of overblown allegorical stories. There's no escaping this book's didactism. Oh, okay, you're losing me. Its parti pris is on display from page 1. I don't know what that means. Is on display from page 1. It was full up on that when I finished reading. They just didn't like it. That's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to argue the fact that you didn't like it. This person read it in high school and hated it. This person said they're in a bad mood and hated it. Okay, that's enough of this one. This next one is interesting. It's The Bronze Horseman. I read this when I was a teenager, and I have all 3 books in the series now, When I read it originally, I thought it was just standalone and then like left off on a cliffhanger that would never be resolved. But apparently there are other books. It's a romance, takes place in like Russia during a war. I have not reread this book yet, but I obviously plan to, so I can continue the series because I don't remember everything that happened. But yeah, I rated this 5 stars. Oh gosh, all right. Off the cuff, people that I follow on Goodreads, Tori, not Tori from A Novel Life, a different Tori. She is a Black booktuber. She tends to read a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy. She's really cool. She rated this 2 stars. That's okay. Reagan, who loves fantasy, she's from Peruse Project, gave that 2 stars. Should we see what they said particularly? I just really don't remember everything. And also I might have rated it really high when I was young, but maybe I wouldn't rate it that high as an adult. Tori says, for some reason, the more I think about The Bronze Horseman, the more I dislike it. Maybe it's because I don't read epic historical romance novels and therefore wasn't as moved by the story. Or maybe it was the repetitive nature of the prose. How many pages can I read about them cooking, hooking up, cheesy dialogue, going swimming? I don't know. She just didn't find it entertaining. That's fine. That's totally fine. Reagan says, this book was wonderful, intense, and quite frankly exhausting. It truly was a ride. I do agree. I remember being like agonized reading the story because it's this thing between the heroine not being able to be with the hero because he's with her sister, but like I think they had a moment together before that. I don't know. It was like right person, wrong time situation. Very complicated family dynamic, relationship dynamic, forbidden situation. So I found that agonizing, but I don't think that's what Reagan needs. Oh, so strange. She said, I have some minor problems with this, and I mean minor, so I'm giving it a 4.85, but then her rating now is updated, right? So I don't know when she originally wrote this review because it says 2017 update, lowering it to 2 stars because the maiden trope mentioned earlier is more problematic than my naive self picked up on 3 years ago. Okay. It's pretty dang creep sketch. Kept it at a 2 stars because the Russian war setting is still done well. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how my thoughts will evolve with this. So let's just jump to the 1 stars to be accurate to this video. Heather says, oh, what fresh hell. I thought this book would never ever end. I never knew how important perfect white teeth could be. I mean, I like white teeth. Who doesn't like white teeth? Who doesn't like white teeth? The description in this book is endless. Buses, walks, dinners, ice cream. Okay, maybe it's a little too slice of life for some people. Like slice of life within a war. You know what I mean? Where people are like struggling. I just remember scenes of like people being hungry and struggling and just like, you know, misery and war and stress and all this stuff. And then like, I guess slice of life mixed in and people don't like that. Oh, sorry, I should have read this out loud. She says, also, I'm assuming this story was meant to be a love story, but 1, I would dump anyone doing my sister while falling in love with me. 2, I would never drop the man of my dreams for a hussy who beat me, even if I was related to her. Nope, no way. I don't remember part 2. I do remember part 1 vaguely. She says, this book was horrid, the characters were laughable, and if I never see a blueberry again, it will be too soon. Same goes for cabbage. I do not know what that means. This review is hilarious. Thank you, Heather. That was funny. All right, let's move on to another one. Maybe one that I actually remember. Let's look at Jade City. How could you hate this book? This book is fantastic. This is an urban fantasy that takes place in a Asian-inspired world where these like martial arts family utilize jade to have magic and like super strength and like all these cool things. It's so cool. I don't know how anyone could hate this book. I just don't know. Barbara says, our muscular hero arrives at the house of his girlfriend, lets himself in, and finds her asleep on her couch. Does he A, let her sleep, B, gently wake her up, or C, straddle her without warning and cover her mouth and nose with his hand so that she wakes thinking she's about to be AR'd as a lesson to be more careful? I don't remember that at all. Also, that's 1 scene. You're gonna rank a book 1 star for 1 scene that you didn't like? 1 scene? They're mafia-esque people. This is a mafia-esque family, and you're gonna be mad when characters aren't perfect? The characters make decisions that, as the reader, you don't agree with all the time. So like, maybe that's just one of the ones you're like, that was weird. Dude, that went a little too far. That's not very nice to do to your girlfriend. Like, sure, but like to rate a whole book 1 star for a scene? And then she's mad because they hook up. Okay, Barbara. All right, Ashlyn. Oh my God, Ashlyn said way too much. Ashlyn is saying way too much. She said it was slow. She said the book was slow. It's full of action scenes and fighting and set up for these epic moments. You see all the maneuverings that puzzle together to create the scenarios that like complicate people's lives and people die and like, too slow? I'm not reading your thing. Your thing is gonna take me too long to get through. Okay, I have better use of my time. Oh my God. Denise didn't even finish it. DNF at 50%, rant ahead. She says, I realized I really don't enjoy mafia/gang related books. Okay, I'm not gonna read anymore. That's enough. If it isn't a topic that you're interested in, no wonder you didn't like it. I don't like books with trials. As we've discovered multiple times in my reading experience. I did not like Phantasma, there's like trials in there. I tried to read The Crown of Nyaxia, but there's trials in there and I DNF'd it at like 10%. So I'm not gonna pick up books with trials in them anymore. Okay, unless they're super hyped. Vicky's is short. She says, pages 1 through 25, all men. Page 26, a female character is mentioned and referred to as a bitch by a male character. Page 32, another female character is mentioned by a male character. For variety, this one is referred to as a whore. Page 42, finally a female character appears. She's half naked, never leaves her bed, and is there to provide very awkwardly written sex for a chauvinistic male character. Page 50, at long last, a non-sexualized female character appears on the page, but too late for me, alas. You know the book was written by a woman? She can be valid in that feeling, like for sure. If you want to have more like strong, powerful women early on in the story. Also, does she not know that like the main antagonist to the story is a very, very strong woman? The antagonist, the main characters, that family, right? Their enemy is another clan who's run by a woman. She's not like pure evil. Her priorities are different from theirs, and because it's mafia gang vibes, they're gonna like try to destroy each other, you know? She's a very strong woman. And we also have the sister who's a very strong woman in the story. We have strong women in the story. Just because you didn't see like any women that you liked in the first 50 pages doesn't negate that. And also like it is gang stuff, and gang stuff tends to be a male dominated world. Typically, you're not like seeing women that often in that kind of environment. And it's not for sexism, it's just for like how things are. But if you want books with like lots of women immediately in the story, sure, okay, fine, whatever. I think that's a silly reason not to like the book. This person got pretty far. Gabrielle said it's been 2 weeks, she's been trying to convince herself to continue, but she's gonna DNF at 65%. Why? She said she wanted to really love this book, but wasn't able to immerse herself in the storyline or fully connect with the characters. Okay. It quickly reverts to scenes of talking. Okay, she doesn't like the talking parts, but I feel like the talking parts are all like the planning and the maneuvering and like the cleverness, the pressure and the stakes of like the political aspects. There is a lot of like political talk in the story, which if you don't like political talk in this fantasy world, like I could see how that would be boring to you. Like there was a lot of heavy political talk in the second book that I also had a little bit of a hard time with. It slowed the pace down a lot. So I can totally understand that. I can respect what you're saying. It makes sense to me, okay? You don't have to like that pacing. Oh my God, this is tough to do. Here is one of my ultimate all-time favorite books that I recommend to literally everybody, and that is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, or however you pronounce his name. This book truly took me by surprise. I had no expectations going into it, but I love the narrative voice in it. I love how the characters are caricatures of people, and it's just very whimsical and goofy, and also so sad and emotional, and you just connect with these characters, or at least I really connected with these characters at times and felt for them and cried for them. And the narrator just has such a fun time making fun of these characters, and then at the end is able to make fun of you as the reader because you fell for this trick, because you've made certain assumptions about life. And yeah, it was just, I loved how shocked I was by that twist, and I absolutely love this book. I would always recommend going in almost completely blind, except for knowing the fact that This is about a bank robbery gone wrong that turned into a hostage situation at an apartment showing. And it's not scary. It's not like a thriller where it's like crazy violent or anything. It's silly, but emotional. I just love it so much. I think it's so well done. Now let's see why people hated it. Oh my God. Anna says this book should have been called Annoying People. Unrealistic, so repetitive. The police interviews were simply ridiculous. Borderline stupidity is what's considered humorous in this novel. God, do you have any fun, Anna? Like, what do you find fun? It's caricatures, okay? So yes, I will agree. At times it's unrealistic. And yes, there were definitely scenes that were like very ridiculous, but in a way that's just like so different from any other book. Like it's almost refreshing to have an adult book that has these silly moments that can bring it back to these emotional, poignant, I don't know if I'm using that right, like feelings. I just thought it was great. Oh my gosh. Now I keep reading it, not out loud, because I read in my mind faster. John says, Anxious People was my first book by Frederick, and I'm afraid it will be my last. That's so sad. Anxious People was also my first book by him. Then I read A Man Called Ove, and I've collected, I think, 2 more, maybe even 3 more, and I really want to read them, but like I know I really love his writing, and I know that they can be really emotional and sad and make me cry, that I have to be in the right headspace and mood to pick them up. So I haven't read one this year by him, but I should prioritize that next year because he's an amazing writer. So I'm sorry you are giving up on him. John says, this book had an interesting premise and a positive message, strangers who form a sense of community through their shared hostage experience. Unfortunately, the writing can only be described as guerrillas. I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry. Pop up the definition. The entire book is written in a rambling conversational style. I really liked the conversational style personally. It makes the narrator a part of the story. Like the narrator isn't a physical character in the plot, but they're such a character in the reading experience, which again, I felt was so rare and unique, and I just loved that. The same lame jokes get repeated over and over again. They aren't funny the first time, let alone the second or third or fourth. I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't. I mean, I read this a while ago. Not everybody has the same humor, right? Like, I don't like movies like Grown Ups, anything with like Adam Sandler, is that his name? Like I hate that kind of style. Anything where like people are getting hurt as being the joke, like I don't find that funny. So if this humor didn't resonate with you, like of course you're not gonna like the book because it's supposed to be funny and you're not enjoying the joke. So yeah, I mean, I get it. It's valid, I guess, if it's not to your taste. Yeah, it just seems like some people just weren't here for the style and the type of humor, and I can respect that, okay? So I'm sorry you guys missed out on enjoying it as much as most people, but that's okay, you can find something else. Okay, I already know what I want to pick next, if I can find it. So this next one is another one of my ultimate, all-time, no questions asked, will recommend it to everyone, favorite book ever. And that is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I have recommended this to so many people. And this is a fantasy that has a Groundhog's Day element to it, where this man wakes up in the body of a different person that sounds dirty. Where this man is trapped at this like fancy estate with all these other characters, and Evelyn dies, and he repeats the day over and over and over again, but each day he wakes up as a different person in the estate, and he has to like solve the mystery of how Evelyn has been killed so he can escape this loop and be free. And it was just so cool. I love time manipulation and like the fact that he's repeating the days, but he's from another POV and he doesn't know who he's gonna be in the future because like he doesn't want to affect the timeline too much, and like, oh, it was so cool. And I really did not know what I was getting myself into. So let me just see why these people that gave it 1 star hated The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Beverly says, I really can't express how much I hated this book. It felt like I was taken in because it promises a lot up front, but it does not deliver. It delivered. What are you talking about? It delivers. Did you move and your package got delivered to the wrong place? Because that's the only way it wasn't delivered. You physically missed the delivery. Then she continues to say, too many characters, too much going back and forth between the same scenes with no clear roadmap made my head hurt. Okay, that's fair. There are a lot of characters and you are repeating the scenes because now you're in a different POV and you have more information. So it changes the scene. It's not like you're getting the same information. You're coming in with different information, gaining more information. It's not like repetitive in that way, in my opinion. But I can see that it hurts your head because there is a lot to think about going on with the POVs and the time jumping and the who can you trust and who's who and blah, 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 blah. It's a lot. She says, 512 pages of confusing gibberish later. I thought there might be a stunning conclusion to wrap it all up neatly. No, that was way too much to hope for. I thought the ending was pretty good. I was very confused too at the end, and the main character was as well, and we were both like, what? What? But like, not like, oh, it doesn't make sense, what? Like, wait, I'm trying so hard, like my brain is like really like cranking to try to figure out putting all the puzzle pieces together. Like, it was really challenging at the end. So I really do want to read this book again at some point, but I want to let the memories fade a little bit more. This person, the book smuggler, says, about 30% into this and I'm super uncomfortable with the amount of fat shaming going on for quite a few chapters now. I am flabbergasted at so many rave reviews that don't even mention this. WTF. Okay, I can see that being triggering for somebody. I vaguely remember there being a male character that was overweight, like obese. And if the descriptions of that and like how it was discussed in the book bothers you, like totally respect you not liking it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if it's like the narrative voice or not. I don't know. But maybe something I'll be more aware of next time. But also like talking about fatness doesn't trigger me in the same way, whereas like maybe certain things that would trigger me don't trigger other people. Yeah, I can totally respect that review. This person simply says, to make it short, I didn't like this book. Unfortunately. Yes, it is unfortunate. I'm sorry. And then the rest of this is kind of long. She didn't like the conclusion, which happens sometimes. It's tough in a type of book where like you're waiting for the answers. Sometimes you're not gonna like the answers. And I mean, to be fair, I read a lot of romance books where the end is just like they're together and happy. So I like know the end every time. But with a mystery, the ending could go so many ways. Some ways will be really satisfying to certain people and some other endings won't be so much. Shit, I wish I could like stop myself from reading them, but they're funny. This person says, imagine watching someone else play chess with himself. People do play chess by themselves. They do. That is a very common thing. Imagine that he keeps patting himself on the back after every move, making his very nice top hat wobble and muttering, oh ho ho, you clever chap. Imagine you're intrigued because you like chess and because you think maybe he'll have some inventive techniques. At the very least, he might be interesting to watch. But imagine that as you get closer, you realize there aren't any pieces on the board and that the man is gazing vacant-eyed at nothing. There, now you don't need to read this book. Rude! Very rude. That is not true at all. You're wrong. You're wrong. I think maybe the chess pieces were in a different dimension that your eyes couldn't see. Maybe it's like ultraviolet light where we can't see it. Like you can't see his chess pieces, but he sees the chess pieces. I don't know. I lost it on the analogy, okay? But I'm hurt by this one. Oh my God, Annie Bot. Annie Bot was one of my favorite books that I read this year. And I can totally see people not liking it, but I hope they didn't. All right, people that I follow, Mina gave it 3.75. Disappointing. I wish she gave it higher. Ooh, Sasha gave it 4.5. Sam gave it 4. Cindy gave it 4. Mari gave it 4. Destiny gave it 1. Anyway, let's filter this. Okay, this person said, I wish the author knew exactly what she had wanted to write about. She did, in my opinion. This is not a sci-fi. That's wrong. It is a sci-fi. She's a robot. That's sci-fi. This is not a romance. No, you're correct. It is not a romance. It's a fetishistic mess of pseudo-therapeutic nature written with a didactic eloquence. For sci-fi, this lacks protocol of what Annie is and how she works, etc. True, we get some of her info and her technicality, but it gets contradicted all the time just by what Annie does, how she reacts, etc. That's the point, right? So she's a robot, and you don't need to know the details of like how she works, because that's not the story that is trying to be told. And she contradicts those things because she's more human than a normal robot, which is the point. She's like human, but not, and that is what's being explored in the book. And comparing it to like actual human women that are treated less than human. I think that's what's trying to be discussed in the story. Because she's not a human, so she's not treated as one, but you can see the similarities of how some women are treated the same way that Annie's treated, even though they are human beings. Like, you're getting it, but you don't get it. She feels discomfort when riding a bike but never orgasm, does not feel cold and regulates her own temperature but flinches when Doug's cold hand touches her, and feels warmth in her belly when recharging. What does riding a bike have to do with orgasms? I don't think she's flinching necessarily because his hand is cold. I think she's flinching because it's Doug. Because he's awful. Like, I think you're missing the point. It's not about like her being able to regulate her temperature and being like, oh, you're cold. No, it's because he's a monster. That's why she's flinching. Okay, moving on. This woman is making me angry. Naya says, oh, this is lazy ass writing with a lot of exclamation points. Like, I'm so furious right now. I can't believe I was tricked to read about this author's fetish. I think some people are like a little distracted by the fact that Annie is a robot, and that she's being mistreated by her user and used as a sex robot. Yes, there are some scenes where you see that happening to her, but it's not romanticized. The fetish, I don't really know what the fetish is that she's referring to. Like, what alleged fetish does the author have? Like, this also is a female author. Like, sex is a part of life. Sex is a big part of Annie's life because of her owner. I think you missed it, baby. But that's okay. I'm just sad that you missed it. Okay, here we go. This one's interesting. Monica says, this is a repetitive story about a woman who slowly realizes she is in a controlling and emotionally abusive relationship. There's lots of sex. Why is that necessary to throw in at the end? Your statement is true. I don't know how repetitive it felt to me. It didn't feel repetitive to me at all. Tracy says, I should have listened to my therapist when she told me I should just DNF it. That's fine. That could be your relationship with the book, and that's okay. Stephanie said, I almost loved this book because I thought it was going to explore how deep domestic abuse goes, especially when rendered invisible by its predators. Not only do I feel like the author did not know how to close this out in a way that is satisfying, but took it to a place that left me asking, why the heck are we here right now? I have not experienced any domestic abuse from my partner. He's a very loving man, so I cannot be the one to say how well it's represented in the story. I definitely can't say that. I don't know if Stephanie could either, but maybe she has a more personal experience along those lines. And I know the ending is not going to be for everyone. It's a very like subtle, quiet, death by a thousand cuts type of book. It's not going to have these like explosion moments of like epic action and revenge. It just doesn't do that. That's not the stylistic choice this author went with. And sometimes for people, I imagine, to feel satisfied like you, and sometimes me too, honestly, in certain books, I really want that revenge moment, you know, like a big epic revenge moment. Like, I was watching the silly Tyler Perry new show, Beauty in Black, and like the ending, I'm like, the show is terrible. It's terrible. Me and Chase were watching it for giggles, but then we kind of got invested in the story, but it's still not good. But I was like screaming at the character at the end, like, do this, like, beat her up, run her over. Mild spoilers. And then when the character like takes that epic moment, you're like, yeah, it's so satisfying. But this book is quieter than that. So yeah, I can see how the ending won't work for everybody. The last one I'll do is How High We Go in the Dark. This book, I thought, was absolutely beautiful, amazing, so creative. It's like a collection of short stories that all interweave together. It's got sci-fi elements to it. It's Japanese American, I believe. And I just Loved it. We read this for my IRL book club, and I'm so glad we did. Oh my gosh. Riley, who is a booktuber I follow, said no one is more shocked by my rating than me. I'm extremely shocked she gave this 1 star. Why? The world may never know. Persephone said Panic at the Disco being mentioned in the book is the sole reason as to why I'm rating this 1 star and not 2 stars. I don't recall that at all. For like one thing that's that small to make you rate it that low just seems so ridiculous, because the book is so much more than just a modern reference. That just feels really petty. Okay, and I can be petty. I'm not saying people can't be petty, but I'm just calling you out. That's fucking petty. That's petty as hell. This is a really good book, and just like, whatever. You must really hate Panic at the Disco. Ruth says, yawn, I truly do not understand the hype. Perhaps I'm just not a fan of the novel and story style, but other books written in this form have still earned my respect, even if they haven't been to my personal taste. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for this book. A meandering and repetitive slog of a book populated with thinly drawn characters, indistinguishable narrators, unclear world building, superficial exploration of themes, and some of the most stale prose I've encountered in a long time. There is absolutely nothing in this text that sparked any emotion, and I literally fucking cried my eyes out multiple. Honey, you're not telling me the story about the roller coasters and the dying sick children didn't have any emotional impact on you? I sobbed. I sobbed so many times at the multiple short stories in this book. Truly baffled by the attention this book has received in the lead up to its release. It's utterly forgettable. Wow, honey, I feel bad for you that you feel that way. There's nothing in her statements that I can be like, yeah, I could see that. Literally nothing. But you don't have to like the book. I'm not gonna say anything mean. I'm gonna hold back. James says, fuck this fucking book. This is a book about dealing with a pandemic, families coming together and falling apart, exploring new horizons of science and grief. That is accurate. I found it terribly sad, slow, and mournful. Yes, it is terribly sad. Sometimes it can be slow, though I don't really recall. Well, actually, maybe, yeah. And mournful, for sure. I didn't enjoy the experience. That's fine. You don't have to like sad books. It's sad. But I'm sure that many people will love it and find it cathartic. It reminded me of watching the movie Contagion, undoubtedly well made, but the heavy subject matter stopped me from actually enjoying the ride. Okay, let's leave it there, okay? Because I can agree with everything she said. She just doesn't want to be sad, and that's fine, okay? Let's end the recording. Oh God, what an interesting exercise to read 1-star reviews of books that I love. Oh, God. Well, I hope you found this video entertaining, and we got to have some interesting discussions about some of my favorite books, because I had to stand here and defend them. Not really stand, I'm sitting. I think it also made me feel more confident in my 5-star ratings of these books, except for the Bronze Horseman one, because I don't really remember that book as well, and I'm sure I've changed a lot since I read it. But anyway. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it, and obviously it helps out my channel. And I will catch you in another video. Bye!